Hi guys. Still a little sick. Over here at Integrity, I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Integrity. And we're gonna try something stupid today. Might be fun, might be stupid. It's definitely stupid. So we have an Onan 5500. It runs off of propane. And we're gonna see about maybe converting it to gasoline and see if it'll work. So it's got the carburetor fuel shutoff harness already there, and that's going to be for the electronic choke. And then the fuel hookup's going to be different. But I do have these propane lines that go to the propane vaporizer up there that I'm going to have to check and make sure this can even work. I did a lot of research, and there was like a 50-50 chance. So the first thing I got to do is take this cover off. This is going to be these Torx bits, so let's get that taken off. Alright, so it's just those 4 bolts on each, 2 on each side. I'll take this off. Alright, so there's the vaporizer there. So those lines are going to. Alright, so this has got to come off. So we got in and out. Guess that's gonna be our first step, is taking the vaporizer off and rolling this thing over and taking the fuel off of it, or the fuel shutoff off of it. So I guess we'll try that first. Alright, so I'll probably take the carburetor off. See how all this is gonna go. Well, I know some people say these things burn through propane pretty fast, but we want to put this in a toy hauler, and that has gasoline on board. So this is the first test we're gonna try. So these are 10mm, and then we'll take that off, and I think we'll start taking some of those other components off. Air filter housing is taken off. I'm gonna just take this all off as one, so I'll disconnect this linkage, and then I won't disconnect this hose, just in case this doesn't work. I want to be able to put it back together. I'm just planning for failure here. Alright, so with that throttle body out of the way, don't lose this, because we'll need that for the new carburetor. That goes to our governor there for our throttle command. Now I just have to chase this around to the back. Looks like disconnect all this, just so I can get the bracket loose, so I can disconnect the vaporizer, which is back here. And I'm sure this will be simple, right? 14, so there must be 13. I guess. Feels pretty loose still. Are they 1/2 inch? I guess they're 1/2 inch. Alright, let's get all that out of the way. Alright, so I know how to keep calling this a vaporizer, but this is just a regulator. Sorry, I'm just used to my forklift. Alright, so I got all that out of the way. So everything else should just run down below. But I do need to put that brace back up on top that I lost. Oh, found it. Let's go ahead and put that back on. Alright, so now that's installed. No, that's put back on, torqued down. I'm going to go ahead and save these screws. These are 10mm, so we're holding that regulator out back there, because I might need these for the fuel pump down below. Because we have to put a new carburetor in, a fuel pump down below. That's the bare minimum that I can see. So I'm gonna have to flip this thing over now. What I'm a little concerned about, it looks like it has a oxygen sensor right there, but this isn't this is carbureted. This isn't fuel injection. I know they have some models that are fuel injection, but if it was fuel injection, I should know, right? Could just be they put that on all of them. And then on the models with fuel injection, they had the injectors. I don't know. It's all confusing to me. Alright, so now I've just flipped it over onto its side. These are all the lines right there going to the regulator and the guy that should be in the dirt, right? So this is going to be the shutoff valve for the propane. We should just hopefully be using the same wires for that as we would be using for the fuel pump, which are right there, which would make sense. So I guess it's time to take this big valve body off. So that should be the. So that's off. I guess that's loose. There's a big spacer block right there. Alright, need to get the wires disconnected. Alright, so those are disconnected. Alright. I say alright 5 more times, will it work? Looks like I gotta. Oh, that's a vent. I guess we don't really need that. That's a vent for the regulator. So I'm just going to disconnect that vent hose for now. It won't hurt the carburetor at all. And then that just leaves this guy that runs down into here. We'll see about getting that disconnected. So I guess do something simple first, right? There's the wires. There, we did something. Alright, so the vent hose is off there, off that nipple. And there's the vent hose. So this last hose we can just pull off. And rather than cut it, I'm going to disconnect the fitting right there. So if I do have to put this back together, I don't have to do anything other than connect that fitting back up. Alright, so that was 13/16 for this block. And the fitting on the hose is 11/16. Didn't feel like there was a lot of threads on that. Well, I didn't build it. So now we should be able to pull this hose back out that way. And now that whole LP setup is disconnected. Let's keep that out of the dirt. But we will need to save this right here. So on this fuel line, we want to make sure that we can put that on the new fuel line that we're going to run. That's going to be going up right through there, I think. So on this setup, I know I had a subscriber ask, you have a ground down here you could hook a battery ground up to, or there's another battery ground right here. Same ground. I don't know why I would use either one, as if you look at the housing itself, that's where it gets mounted, and 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 it's all going to the same aluminum block. So this is a ground, that's a ground, that's a ground. So as long as you're going to chassis ground and you have a good star washer or something connecting the bolt up to there, you should be good. So let's go ahead and see if we can't fit the fuel pump in there. All right, so here we go. We have our fuel pump right here. There's a part number on that. Fuel pump. There's your part number. Should be the same part number there. Yeah, there you go. Same part number. These are actually pretty spendy for what they are. Make sure you get the right one. It's not vital, but I think one of these will have a ring terminal, so that you don't want a ring terminal. And then this has the 90-degree angle head, so that when we put it up right into there, you can see it fits right in that hole. But you'll notice it's going to be hard to hook up fuel line to there. So you need to pick up a 1/8 inch male pipe thread to 1/4 inch hose. And then you'll need some 1/4 inch fuel line. And on the other side, we have our fuel filter that has the nipple on it already. So let me just go ahead and get this all assembled real fast. Make sure we put some sealant on that. Alright, so that's all sealed up. That one already had sealant on it, so this is ready to go. But before we put it up in there, because the holes that it goes into aren't tapped, so it's going to be that one and the bottom one there. I need to tap those holes real fast. Generally, these are kind of self-tapping bolts. They're a little flanged, or they're not completely round. So I'll just run these up there with the this 10 millimeter. I'll just run those up in there, hopefully tap those holes, and then we'll be done. So now obviously it's not a horrible idea to put some penetrating oil on there. That way we're not breaking a screw off in there. But this is a cast aluminum, so it's fairly soft metal. Alright, well there's one. Do the next one above it, and then we'll be ready to put the fuel pump on. Alright, so I got all those tapped out. It's kind of hard to see. Like I said, it's kind of like triangle. It has little points on it. It's hard to see. I don't know if you guys can see that. A little bit less round, more triangular. So before we actually mount this in place, because it's going to be very difficult to get to the hose clamp on that nipple, we need to feed this hose through. But of course, don't forget our little heat condom there. That put through there. That'll go down into there. Alright. So look at that. It's ready to go. I'm not going to cut this in yet because I don't know where to cut it yet. Now it won't hurt to put a little bit of lube on that so that that barb fitting will fit in pretty easily. But also don't forget your hose clamp. Now if you can get the smaller hose clamps, I like the smaller hose clamps. These tend to not get tight enough even if you ratchet them all the way down. So it's kind of hard to see what I'm talking about, but that's what I'm talking about. And for what it's worth, it's fairly common for after about 8 years, and especially Arizona, this hose actually starts to crack. So I've had to replace this hose a lot of times anyways. It just comes from the fuel pump to the carburetor on most of these generators. But so I already know how to do that. Alright, let's get that everything mounted there. Of course, fuel line, the wires just run up through that hole right through the grommet. And then the fuel pump is now installed. So now all we have to do is pull this generator back down and hopefully hook up the carburetor, because that fuel line can get hooked up later, and then it'll give time for all that oil being up on in, get back at the bottom of the crankcase on this thing. Alright, so now we got the generator sitting back where it needs to be. Here are the wires for the fuel pump, and they're already one's male, one's female. Alright, I'll need my wire cutters. Oh, there they are. So, let's see. I guess I don't need wire cutters. Just a little wire clamp holding that down. And even these are going to be, you know, a small one and a big spade connector, so that can only go on the choke one way. That's ready to go. This fuel line usually gets routed behind here up to there. So here's our carburetor right there. Now this is an expensive little guy. Cummins Onan is very proud of these carburetors. If there's any advice I can give you, is never buy the ones from Amazon that are cheap generic Chinese ones. They look identical, but the tolerances inside are no good, and you're gonna wish that you didn't buy one. Sometimes they work just fine, and then a few weeks later they don't work. I've never had one work just fine. I always had to try to adjust the generator to work, and it never works. Long story, that's boring. So there's our part number that we're going on this. So let me just go ahead and get the gaskets out and slide this thing back, hook up the throttle and the wires, and make sure everything's going to be working there. I guess I should show you a little bit more. Right here's the fuel shutoff solenoid. That's actually how the generator gets turned off. You lose fuel. And there's a connector for it. It does have a electric choke right there to open up the choke once it's nice and warm. And those are the wires that are already there. That's why I'm assuming this will work. So that's just going to fit on back there. Fuel line's going to come up here, and we will cut it. And on the back of the air filter housing that I just dumped all the important hardware out of, don't lose that. That goes on right about there. So the fuel line's going to go behind there. And then of course you have the crank breather right on top. It needs to fit on to the back side. So we have a gasket we have to swap out on the back of the throttle, or sorry, the intake manifold there. And one on the front. And then we kind of put this thing together. Oh, I guess I need to put this guy on too. So let's do all this. Whenever I take a carburetor off, I always take a picture. That way I know where that spring is at, because this is actually how you can adjust the frequency easier, and where this thing went and the way the spring went. So you got a big one and a small one. Put it down in there. It definitely is a lot easier without the cover on. Alright, so let's see. It all seems to work. Alright, so near as I can tell, we're going to call this part good. Air filter goes on. I just have to put the cover back on and go, I don't know, hook it up to some gasoline and some power and see if it starts. Sure, it won't get installed today. Alright, so there it is, guys. Ready to go. We're 5500 propane generator. We're converting to gasoline. All things hopeful, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and probably off camera, because this isn't an installation video, and this thing's already set up, ready to go with all the mounting holes. These are fuel lines. Some of these have a return for fuel injection. This one does not have fuel injection, so I won't be using all of it. It's got the pre-wire for the 110 hookup, and the remote hookup's right up there. So I'm just gonna have to run a battery cable, hook up the 110 up to there. But all I really want to do is put it in place, hook up battery, hook up fuel, and see if it actually starts. So I've already done the generator installation video before. There's no real reason to show you the rest of it getting put back together. But, oh, what I did find out was there's two lines here. One's a return line in case this was a fuel injected generator. Of odd things, the bigger line was the return line. So I had hooked up to the big line, assuming that was supply, but that was not supply. I don't think that's very useful information. And then I had to change the generator exhaust hookup. See the fuel pump underneath. And there you go. So we do have the power hooked up. This remote harness, I'll have to put a panel inside. But more importantly, what we did learn is that you can convert an HGJAB 5.5 Onan from propane to gasoline just with a fuel pump, a carburetor, a fitting, and I guess a fuel filter. That's good to know. Let's get in the truck and talk about this. Alright guys, there you have it. Can you convert an LP Onan HGJAB 5.5 kilowatt generator, RV generator, to a gasoline unit? Yes, you can. All it takes is a carburetor, a fuel pump, a fitting, some fuel line, and a stubborn will to do so. Now I do understand there is a little bit of why you'd want to do this. It does go through a lot of propane, and making a conversion to gas makes a little bit more sense to me. But being on a toy hauler, you wouldn't want a propane generator, you'd want a gasoline generator. So that makes a lot more sense to me. I guess it went a lot better than I thought it was going to go, and it was a pretty straightforward job. I hope this helps somebody. Thanks a lot.